Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we are going to be studying about polymorphism in Java. Polymorphism means existing in many forms, or to exist in many forms, and it occurs when we have many classes that are related to each other through inheritance. Just as we had specified in the previous lesson, inheritance lets us inherit attributes and methods from another class. Polymorphism uses those inherited methods to perform different tasks. Therefore, we can be able to perform a single action in different ways. For example, think of a superclass vehicle that has a method honk, and other subclasses, for instance, subclass car or Audi and so on, can be able to implement or to provide their own implementation of the honk sound. So let's find out how we can be able to achieve that in code. Polymorphism has two ways. There are two ways with which you can achieve polymorphism. One is through overriding, and the other one through overloading. So, for instance, in our vehicle class, we already have a method honk, and in its implementation, we have that the honking sound is toot toot. In the car class, we have another implementation of the honk method. However, its sound is PP. So we have two different implementations for the superclass and the subclass for the same method. So what this is called? This is called function overriding or method overriding. So this is called method overriding, which is one of the ways that you can be able to achieve polymorphism in Java through overriding. So for instance, if we create an object of the car class and find out which method is going to take, let's find out that. Let's say car1 dot honk. Let's find out which method is going to take. Yes, so as you can see, we have a method, it says PP, which is the implementation provided in the subclass or in the base class. Had we not provided this overridden method, it would have used a different implementation. How is this polymorphism? This is polymorphism, or an existence in many forms, in that in the parent class, we have a definition of the honk method, and in the child class, we also have a definition of the honk method, and therefore Java has to know which method to implement. And the rule is that the one that is implemented or overridden in the child class, that is the one that is taken for the implementation. So that is called function overriding, which is one of the ways that you can be able to achieve polymorphism. The other way of achieving polymorphism in Java is through overloading. So those are two different ways of achieving polymorphism that can be a little confusing, but we are going to learn about their differences. So we're going to say polymorphism is achieved through method overloading and method overriding. What we have just learned right now is overriding, method overriding. Let's study about method overloading, and we are going to see how this can happen using a constructor. So let's say our class has some variables or some attributes, for instance, the name of the car and the color of the car. So let's have private string name and private string color. So let's provide some constructors. So the first constructor, we can provide it as a default constructor. So let's have public. You remember the syntax for defining a constructor. So this is the default constructor. It takes no parameters and has an empty definition. That it takes no parameters. We can have a different constructor, public car, which takes just the name. So we can say this takes the name. Name. We can say this dot name equals to the name that has been supplied. We can have a different constructor, public car. However, this can take two parameters or to take two of the attributes, string name and string color. So we can have this dot name equals to name and this dot color equals to color. So what do you realize here? What you realize here is that we have one constructor, or the name of the constructor is one, in that we have public car. All the methods have the same name, car, car, car. However, in the first method, or in the first constructor method, it is a default and takes no parameters. In the second constructor, we take only one parameter, and in the third constructor, we take two of the parameters. This is known as method overloading. Please note the difference. Method overloading is where you supply different parameters for the same method, and during implementation time or during execution time, that's when you define which of the constructors you want to use. For instance, I could define a different object, car2 equals to new car, and the IDE is going to allow me to either choose between either supplying taking the default constructor or taking the one that has one variable. So let's say Ford. So as we have said, this is called method overloading, and it also applies for different methods. How can it apply? Apart from applying method overloading for the constructors, how can we apply the same for the different methods? For instance, we can have a method, let's say accelerate. So let's have a method accelerate, public void accelerate. So we can have its implementation as system out println. Let's say we are in acceleration mode, and we can have the same method defined again, public void accelerate, with the same name. Realize that initially, when I write the same method with the same name twice, the IDE tells us that we have throws an error and tells us that the method accelerate is already defined in class car. However, if we supply a different an attribute or a parameter here, what happens? String double speed. Let's say double speed. What happens? The IDE does not again throw an error, because what we are doing here is method overloading, and Java recognizes this as a valid way of writing code. So please note that the same we have two methods with the same name. The only difference is the parameters that we are passing to the methods. One method takes no parameters, and the other method takes one parameter. So let's define it. System out println acceleration mode. Acceleration. I think I should add them. Sorry. Acceleration mode. Sorry. So let's copy that. Acceleration mode at speed, the speed that we are going to supply as parameter. So we have those two methods. One takes no parameter and the other one takes a parameter, speed, but they have the same name. So whenever I want to implement the method, or to implement, let's say for car2, we can say car2 dot accelerate. That is the first method that takes no parameter, and I can also say car2 dot accelerate. However, I need to provide some speed, for instance, accelerate at speed 80. So let's run the program and find out how this works. Very good, very good. So we have acceleration mode, that is the first acceleration method that takes no parameters, and we have the second method executing as acceleration mode at speed 80. So key takeaway from this lesson is about Java polymorphism, and we have said that polymorphism is implemented through method overloading and method overriding. Method overloading is when you supply different parameters for different methods, and it can be used whenever you are writing constructors and class or object methods. We also have method overriding, and method overriding occurs when a method occurs or has been defined in the parent class, but the child class also provides a different definition, as we have seen. So thank you for staying on course. Please enjoy and see you in the next lesson. Thank you.